Five, four, three, two, one.
Okay. Hello, willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa, ni hao, jambo, morhaba. It's time for the Amish Inquisition yet again, episode 195 on Sunday the 15th of August. I'm Amish Phil.
I'm Amish Ben.
And no Amish Matt this week. And you may notice a sort of serious tone to my voice this week because we've got a very serious topic. And we've got Mitchell Gerber here from StopOrganHarvestingNow.org. Is that right? You're on mute, Mitchell. There he is.
How we go, Phil? Yeah, Ben. Nice to be on your show. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. I've heard a lot about you. I love your show, and I'm just grateful to be on. It's StopOrganHarvesting.org.
I should have known that because I've put it on giant letters on the stream.
Yeah, it is there.
I neglected to read it while we were doing that. But,
sure. No worries. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Can't let you know how appreciative we are of you staying up to the early hours there because you're close to the Chinese border, right?
About 200 miles, yeah. I mean, in Hanoi, Vietnam, and just exposing this new form of evil, guys. And I know it seems like it's been done before, and it has, and it's on a smaller scale, but this kind of evil with such a superpower behind it is crazy. And I'm glad to be here to show you some clips and just to share a little bit of wisdom I've attained along the path.
Well, here in the West, in our mainstream media, we occasionally hear about catch-all terms like human rights abuses and the plight of the Uyghurs, and there's never really anything in a lot of detail, and there certainly is never any mention of Falun Gong, and I think that's a good place to start. If you could give us a bit of background, a bit of history, the Falun Gong movement, what it is, what happened to them at the turn of the 21st century.
Absolutely. Well, the background I'm sure your audience would like to know is how I got involved and what a little bit of background with me. So I'll share in a nutshell. I come from a Jewish family. I come from South Africa. The only reason why I basically landed up in South Africa is because my family from Nazi-occupied Lithuania and Hungary, they had to flee. Otherwise, they would be all slaughtered. Most of them were slaughtered by the Nazis. And those who were lucky enough to survive landed in South Africa. There I was born, and then I left to the United States, and I'm a 25-year American citizen residing in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I decided to go around the world and advocate and crusade for the story that I'm on your show to discuss about. And I've been doing that for 21 years. So now I'm in Vietnam, and I'm on the borders of the Communist Party's Red Devil border. And just been doing this, exposing this red dragon for the last 21 years. And, Falun Gong, Ben and Phil and everybody who's watching, it's very similar to Tai Chi. I don't know if you grew up with Bruce Lee, watching Bruce Lee, or the series that just came on with Ip Man, Bruce Lee's master. And it's just brilliant to share about Western culture and fusion with Eastern culture in a quite ancient and harmonious way. And Falun Gong, very similar to yoga, to Tai Chi, it teaches the principles of truthfulness, compassion, tolerance, very similar to the universal principles in spirituality, sex, different religious practices, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Taoism, deeply rooted in Buddhism and Taoism. And it emphasizes character building and virtue, rather than fanaticism or radicalism or extremism, as a true path of health and spiritual elevation. And many people were initially drawn to this, as I was. When I was studying international business, I was always going after the money, the power, the woman, right? at that 21-year-old age of fun, and partying and having a good time. I was at the University of Georgia, one of the top 10 schools of business in the South. My father invested a lot of money. I was interning at a prestigious investment firm. And one day I just felt inside I wasn't doing right. I wasn't, in terms of feeling right. I was stressed out. I was anxious. I was only thinking about money. I was partying a lot. There's nothing wrong with making money, being successful, being having a good time, putting the fun back in dysfunctional. But when it comes to time when your body starts talking to you and saying, come on, I want more of a healthy diet, a healthy lifestyle, a healthy mindset, a healthy way of doing things, I was looking for something that would bring me to that state. And I tried yoga. I loved yoga. I still to this day love yoga. I practice a little yoga. And health and wellness in the gym is magical, pump that iron, running, swimming. And I came across Falun Gong at an international festival at the University of Georgia. And I was initially drawn to the practice, guys, because it was incredible healing to me when I learned the first exercise, which is called the stretching exercise. And there's 5 exercises where you unblock all those energy channels. And guys, immediately when I was practicing, I don't know how to explain it. Like as soon as the first one, you stretch the whole body to unblock all those energy channels, and I was like feeling boom, 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 like down my back, like just popping open, releasing that stress, releasing that anxiety, and I was like, wow, I need more of this stuff, man. I love this stuff. And in a short amount of time that I practiced, with no money involved, no cultish tendencies involved, no dogmatic principles involved, just a simple improvement and cultivation of your spirit, of your heart, of your mindset, based on truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance to become more successful in life with your businesses, with your relationships, and just with your living. And this practice became the largest spiritual movement in China, and then it was outlawed by the Chinese government. And I know I've been talking a lot. I'm trying to condense 21 years into like an hour, but if you want to be so kind to share, I think a video tells the story of 1,000 words very, 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 very well. So just to back up everything I was saying, Ben and Phil, would you like to play the first clip to show your audience what we're dealing with?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep, absolutely. Stand by. Clip number 1. Where is it? There we are.
One of the worst.
The spinning wheel of death. It didn't do this when I tested it this afternoon. Shall I try and refresh it? Yeah or no?
Yeah.
Let me just reload. Let me just reload the page.
That's what I love about this, the realness and the authenticity of podcasting. It's great. It's great. People appreciate this nowadays with all the fake news coming on.
Right, we'll try again. Oh, I don't believe it.
Here we go.
Just thinking about
One of the worst crimes in history began taking place in hospitals throughout the country as organ transplants suddenly began to skyrocket.
We've been asked to investigate allegations that there has been harvesting of organs of Falun Gong in China. Our bottom line conclusion, after considering everything as best we could, was that the allegations are true.
I began conducting comprehensive interviews with medical professionals, Chinese law enforcement personnel, and over 50 refugees from the Laogai system. But I estimate that 65,000 Falun Gong were murdered for their organs from 2000 to 2008.
Essentially what organ harvesting means is they're taking Falun Gong practitioners literally like cattle, holding them in prison camps, testing their blood and other vital organs, and when someone comes into the country that needs a heart, a liver, a kidney, they find a match, they take the Falun Gong practitioner, extract their organs, of course killing them in the process.
People who are expecting this to sort of just be solved naturally by all we have to do is sit back and they'll fix it, this is wrong. The West has to take a role. And the one role the West can do is say, these are our values. We cannot go beyond this. There are certain lines we can't cross. This is a red line. That's an absolute red line.
Enver Tohti, the surgeon turned bus driver, says it's been 20 years since he removed the organs from that live prisoner. It remains a mystery why so few people have ever heard about the thing he says he cannot forget.
This is my experience. This is a real, true story. If you keep silence, this tragedy will continue. And people, they just don't want to touch this evil. Because if you touch this evil, maybe at the end of the day, you may not be able to tackle this the consequences. That is my guess.
Powerful. And
just to sum it all up.
Yeah, and that last chap who was speaking, he was driving a London bus, or a bus in the UK. And he's been involved actually on the table, removing organs. That's incredible.
Yeah, Dr. Enver Tohti, he sat with me in London in Westminster Abbey. I believe that's what it's called. Is it Westminster Abbey? Yes, the famous Parliament building in London. We were doing a presentation with the bald-headed man, the investigative journalist Ethan Gutman, and Dr. Enver Tohti, and the two gentlemen from Canada, Dr. David Kilgore and Mattis. Mattis wasn't there, but we had all the investigators for 2 hours. We were the first presentation in a child trafficking court and child abuse courts, the pedophilia, the human trafficking, child trafficking, and we got to share about what the Chinese Communist Party is doing. Ben and Phil and everybody who's watching and listening is taking a large group of these people, the Falun Gong, particularly 95% of the organs are coming from the Falun Gong practitioners, and then others are coming from Uyghur Muslims who have been ethnically cleansed, Tibetans from the Dalai Lama traveling around the world for many years trying to stop the slaughter of these Tibetans, and house Christians, underground Christians, have been sent by the Chinese military in steel cattle cars, transported to over 2,000 hospitals, 250 concentration camps called the Laogao system, as he just mentioned in the video, in the clip, and 36 to 40 death camps, cutting out the organs of these innocent Falun Gong practitioners after becoming the largest spiritual movement in China, reducing millions, multi-millions of dollars in healthcare costs, healing illnesses, ailments, and injuries, vanishing, just all gone. This became the life force of China, where 1 out of every 12 Chinese national citizens were practicing the spiritual movement. This practice Falun Gong, guys, outnumbered the number of people in the Chinese Communist registered membership database by 30 million people. So no wonder the Chinese Communist Party shat their pants, excuse my language, but got really nervous, got really threatened that kind of spiritual power of freedom, of independent thoughts, of liberty, of the right to consent and, you know, following your heart, having the courage, like William Wallace, like Leonidas, like Cyrus the Great, like all the great generals in history that have stood for something, or great people, or kings or queens, because there were these people, these leaders who stood for the people, who did the right thing, that refused to be a coward before the Creator, that refused to do something betrayful in the name of justice. What I've been doing with my colleagues and other people, I have been exposing the CCP for cutting out these people's organs and selling their organs for massive amounts of profit, fueling a multi-billion-dollar business.
Wow. So there is a financial motivation. There is the motivation of suppression, because from what you're saying, this movement, however, whenever it started, it grew to, I think you said, around 10% of the population. So what, 100 million people?
Yes. 1992 it started. It was introduced by Mr. Li Hongzhi, the founder, the teacher of Falun Gong. Yeah.
Wow, right. Now, I'd like to know more about this guy. So did he just burst onto the scene with this thing? And, within a decade, he's got 100 million people behind him?
Mr. Lee is a very genuine teacher. He's called a master, like Bruce Lee, Master Ip Man. There have been many masters in Chinese history. I'm sure you've listened to watched the Karate Kid. So people have come to understand master doesn't mean that you're a slave. No, it means that you are a student of this master to be taught in a righteous and good and wholesome way. And Mr. Lee his title was the most acclaimed Qigong master. Falun Gong received the highest Qigong awards at the Asian Health Expo, and only a year and a half, guys, after Falun Gong was introduced to the public, Mr. Lee already received special invitation to attend the 1993 Asian Health Expo as one of the organizing committee members. The practice grew to become the largest spiritual movement in China. One of the reasons why the Chinese Communist Party at that time, with its president, the evil head of the CCP, Jiang Zemin, banned Falun Gong on July 20th, 1999, 8 years after being introduced into China and have received honorary status in the Chinese society, the population growing 10% a year, as you just said, Phil, and the overwhelming benefits just were staggering, were shocking. And the Western world wanted to know what this life force was that was helping so many people, that nourishing people back to health, spiritually, emotionally, physically. There were suicide rates were going down, people were living longer, the productivity rates in the factories were going up, divorce rates were going down, people were becoming much more attuned with morality, being better people. Very similar to the most prosperous period of Chinese history, which was the Tang Dynasty, where every student at that point, business was booming, the morals were at an all-time high, and everyone was required, not mandated and forced, but required to sit in meditation, close their eyes, deep breath, and just let go, and surrender to fate, to faith, and to understanding that everything's arranged. This is how the Chinese think, and they go straight to the source. So it was a very prosperous society. So when Falun Gong was introduced by Mr. Lee, it became the largest spiritual movement because of its tremendous health benefits, and led to becoming the largest. The Chinese Communist Party at that time hated that. They wanted to suppress it, just like they did it with the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre, where tens of thousands of students had enough of the suppression, had enough of the brutality, had enough of the tyrannical tyranny and forceful control that the CCP had over their lives, had over their bank accounts, had over their private properties, had over their spirits. And they revolted in a peaceful way and got gunned down and slaughtered, as you can see when the Chinese student was standing in front of the tank. Very famous. Same with Falun Gong. It became the largest spiritual movement, like I said, 5 times in a row. And because its ideology was incredible contrast with the CCP's diabolical nature. The history of killing is 100 million people. That's more life taken by the CCP intentionally than 2 world wars combined. Think about that. Amazingly.
Yeah, this is something that sort of, I know, like, I remember from my education, we focused a lot on World War II and World War I and the Nazis. And, the Gulag Archipelago came out 50 odd years ago. There's sort of 2 generations of people have grown up without having to think about what was the greatest evil of the 20th century, which was communism. It took, it put Hitler to shame with the amount of lives it took, and it's still going today.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, this is not some cult or demonic terrorist group, and Mr. Lee is not some kind of cult leader. He was actually praised by the People's Public Security Daily. the publication under the Chinese Ministry of Public Security. I mean, you live in a China. That's like the health czar or the president of the United States honoring this spiritual movement, this person. They said, we commend Mr. Li for his contributions in promoting the traditional crime-fighting virtues of the Chinese people, in safeguarding social order and security, and promoting rectitude in society. He was given the certificate of honor. No other teacher had that kind of honor. So why was Falun Gong banned, you may ask? Why? Yeah. Because the size of the following, I mean, as I've just shared, made communist leaders very fearful of losing control of the people's hearts and minds. Its guiding principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance appeared incompatible and in stark contrast to the evil communist ideology of totalitarianism, cannibalism, victimization, dehumanization, deception, manipulation, and just killing. And in addition, certain communist officials saw that through the practice that they were understanding through the medical investigations on the body, specifically the organs, the metabolic processes in pregnant women, they could see how the body was improving to levels of health they've never seen before. And so they realized they could make a fortune of these people. A fortune of these people that if they put something together like a state-sanctioned, kill-to-order, on-demand organ harvesting campaign and spend $1 billion of propaganda to demonize the spiritual movement 24/7 and poison the Chinese people and lie and deceive the world's people, they could get away with underhandedly conspiring and engaging and launching a new form of evil that has yet to be seen on this planet, that has been done on a large scale, on a small scale, but not this intricate, not this streamlined, not this legalized, and not run by the superpower that owns the second largest military in the world, the second largest economy in the world, the largest population in the world, runs 4 specialized units of the United Nations, which is unheard of any other country in the world, colludes and controls the World Health Organization with its patsies, Secretary General Tedros, not to mention a CCP puppet, Joe Biden, who has been colluding for many years, and Hunter Biden's just been caught red-handed. I don't know if you saw the latest video on the guy. My goodness, I mean, if he's not guilty, I don't know what people are smoking or what people are thinking and where their sense of direction and discernment is. Guilty is charged.
Yeah, the last Hunter video where he's talking about how many dollars he has while he's smoking crack naked and with his non-exec board member's job on $50,000 a month.
Absolutely. So this Rhona regime that is killing people on a state-sanctioned murder basis, just ripping out their organs while alive in over 2,000 hospitals, between 45 and 65,000 Falun Gong practitioners slaughtered to death between 2001 and 2006. And now the estimates, I don't agree with the conservative estimates. I think the estimates, for me, my opinion, are much, much higher, especially when you're fueling and talking about a multi-billion-dollar organ harvesting business. But the conservative estimates, based on the investigators, are between 80,000 to 100,000 transplant mergers. Now, there are, for one person, you can get about 5 or 6 organs, like corneas, lungs, kidneys, hearts, liver, pancreases. Corneas at $30,000 a cornea, hearts $130,000 to $160,000, and they're reducing these waiting times from 4 to 8 years. Waiting lists of 4 to 8 years for lungs and hearts, and 2 to 3 years for livers, to a matter of weeks. The shortest times being 2 to 3 days, and the longest being 10 days, where you can get something for $500,000.
Mitchell, who's buying these organs?
That's a great question, and I'll share with you in a moment. Let's just see. I've got. You have rich foreign nationalists from Pakistan, from Saudi Arabia, from Seoul, Korea, from America, from Canada, from Europe, just going and calling the doctors, calling the hospitals and saying, yeah, we would like some fresh Falun Gong organs. These are in the next clip I would love you guys to play, you'll actually hear a live conversation from an investigator posing as a director of a person, a buyer looking for an organ, particularly the Falun Gong, and the doctor saying, yeah, sure, we have plenty. It's like a grotesque restaurant where you just take a lobster out of a tank, cut him open, and then just take his organs. This is what's going on in China. So if you would like to play the second clip, it will share on what you would like to know. Your question.
Is that the second one?
Yes.
Right, stand by. Hopefully it'll work first time this time. Clip 2. Let's try it.
By 2000, Falun Gong practitioners were disappearing into labor camps in mass numbers. At the same time, Chinese hospitals began promoting their organ transplant expertise.
I'm David Matus, and with me is David Kilgore. We've been asked to investigate allegations that there has been harvesting of organs of Falun Gong in China. David Kilgore is a former member of Parliament and former cabinet minister for Asia Pacific, and I'm a Winnipeg lawyer doing immigration, refugee, and international human rights law in Winnipeg. And we have now done our investigation, and we're producing this report. And I didn't know whether it was true or not, and so my task initially was to try to figure out a way of approaching the issue so that I could either prove it or disprove it and not just walk away and say, I don't know.
The number of executions in China varied widely depending on who was counting. But Matus says no matter which number he used, the number of executions and the number of organs didn't add up.
The transplant volumes increased substantially after the persecution of Falun Gong began. And I mean, there's a lot of other evidence, but the most likely explanation for the increase is the Falun Gong. We pursued every investigative trail we could find. In the report, you will see that there are 18 different avenues of proof and disproof we considered and evaluated. Our bottom line conclusion, after considering everything as best we could, was that the allegations are true. We believe them to be true, that this harvesting is indeed happening.
Matus says what made Falun Gong organs especially attractive was the practitioners' healthy lifestyle. They do not drink or smoke. On many of the recordings of phone calls made to more than 100 Chinese hospitals, doctors assure callers that transplant organs are from healthy Falun Gong practitioners.
都是那种健康的法轮功是吧？健康的法轮功。对对对，看精神学好的才能做完，因为这种东西都要保证质量的。那是都要像你们都要做监狱去自己去挑选是吧？对对对，肯定。
We'll go and pick them out. Oh my God. It's disturbing, isn't it?
Absolutely
shocking.
And the explosive growth of China's organ transplant industry. I mean, since 1999. I mean, listen to these facts. The number of hospitals performing liver transplantation has increased 20 times. The annual liver transplantation quantities have increased 180 to 436 times, and this was only in 2007. The average waiting times, and this is what I found quite scary. You were saying where they are being sold to. Well, and I'll preface this before I actually share with you one of the main donors, one of the main people that are getting these organs, that they're selling all these organs to. The average waiting time is 1 to 2 weeks in China, and we have the doctors have said have mentioned we have seen so many donor organs that you can select young and good ones. You can select a good and a younger liver to you. We have so many donor organs that you can select young and good ones. For the waiting time for a donor organ, 2 to 3 days at shortest, about 10 days at longest. It costs about $500,000, and we have many donor organs. And this is just insane, because who they are selling these organs back to is one of the main people that they're selling them back to is their own citizens. Where China has 130 million hepatitis B carriers, right? China has also 40 to 50% of the world's liver cancer patients. So for the 8 million end-stage liver patients, the most effective treatment is what, gentlemen? Transplantation. So the Chinese Communist Party are cutting, on the one hand, organs out of their own citizens, prisoners of conscience, Falun Gong practitioners and others, while alive, while the blood is flowing. These are not dead people. These are not cadavers. These are live people, slightly sedated so they cannot move, and they're motionless, still breathing, still alive as the blood is flowing, and then the organs are just removed and slaughtered and cut out. And sell back to their old Chinese people and the CCP officials, particularly, who have now got this bioweapon, this COVID-19 virus. And yes, folks, it is a bioweapon. It has been released from unintentionally from the Wuhan lab, killing millions of Chinese people already. They've been burying the bodies in China. This is nothing new. All this has been coming out. It's an unrestricted bioweapon. So are the vaccines. This is a biopathogen genocide, the likes we've never seen before, and it's commenced. So all from the CCP, even the technology is downloaded into these vaccines. But that's beside the point. That's the intel that we've been getting. I've been on the front lines for a long time. I don't sit on any boards. I'm not for the trolls out there. I'm not a Mossad agent. I'm not a CIA operative. I know some of these guys. I've been on. They invited me once to a child trafficking raid in Vietnam. 2 mercenaries who saw me on Alex Jones, and I went and we rescued some kids, and it was phenomenal. And I'll never forget it. But I'm not part of any service. I'm a man on a mission. I'm an investigative journalist. I'm a Jewish guy, simple guy, hardly graduated freaking college or even high school, but I had a heart like William Wallace, like Cyrus the Great, like Leonidas, who stood at Thermopylae for 300 Trojans and said, if you bring the conquered king's heads to my city steps, and you insult my queen, and you threaten my people with slavery and death, you better choose your words, CCP. You better choose your words, Red Dragon. You want to kill me? You want to come after me? When I was on Steve Bannon, almost gave me the names because he pressed me for the names of the American politicians who are involved in this diabolical murder, getting rich off the institutionalized slavery system. They were sold down the line by Bill Clinton in 1996 in the NAFTA agreements, and how they've hijacked and stolen the election, and all this is coming out by Mike Lindell and Patrick Byrne and other people. I'm close to these guys. I respect these guys. And you're trying to shut us down? Well, you know what? History has been written by those who have hung heroes. But us heroes, and I don't call myself a hero, I just do what I need to do, guys. I do the right thing. I'm not the best man there is. I'm not the most smartest wine in the tool shed, and I'm not. I don't claim to know much, but I know a truth, and I know what is right and what is wrong. And to fail to support the good and to fail to expose the evil is goddamn unacceptable. And we do not tolerate rude behavior. So this is the mission I took for no money, no fame, no fortune, no deception, no smoke and mirrors, no CIA Mossad crap. I'm Mitchell Gerber, an investigative journalist on the show to expose evil, and this is what I'm doing. And I'm glad, guys, for having me on.
It's our pleasure. That was quite a rant. We can tell how passionate you are about this, and, well, it's no wonder after how many, 17 years, did you say you've been?
21.
21 years you've been investigating this. Do you ever feel like you are banging your head against the wall?
Many times. Especially now, when people refuse to even listen, refuse to even have a conversation, a human conversation, because this is not about left or right. Yeah, some of the people who listen to my politics, they don't appreciate it, and I'm not attacking them. I'm just sharing the truth. I'm a political atheist. I don't genuflect to any political group, but what I see is truth. I'm an investigative journalist, so I put 2 and 2 together. I connect the dots. I sift through all the data of facts and non-facts and reports, and then I put the picture together like a puzzle, puzzle with all the facts and all the reports. And I'm actually compiling I've got about 11-page report right now on all the evidence of the unrestricted bioweapon that was released by the Wuhan lab. That is connected to the genocide in China, and
that would be something that I would like to go into a bit more detail. Is the hard evidence of the organ harvesting? Yes. What are some of the best examples of evidence we have?
If I can direct your your viewers and your listeners to endtransplantabuse.org. Endtransplantabuse.org. And at endtransplantabuse.org, you will find the reports by David Kilgore and David Mattis, the gentleman that you actually saw a couple of times on the clips. They are the main investigators. They confirmed the allegations of forced live organ harvesting, state-sanctioned kill to order on demand, okay, legally sanctioned, in 2006 with 18 pieces of hard-hitting evidence confirming the short waiting times, the surging business, the transplant tourism, transplant on demand, and a state crime from top-down policy. And their reports, if people choose to read it, are phenomenal. And their book is called Bloody Harvest. There is an excerpt of it on the website, endtransplantabuse.org, as well as Ethan Gutman's report on the slaughter, a 10-year investigative report, particularly on the Uyghur Muslims, how they have also been slaughtered and ethnically cleansed. So the evidence is shocking. Not to mention, Phil and Ben, for example, the strong teams of liver and kidney transplant physicians show actual enormous transplant volumes. So the World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong, their website is upholdjustice.org. I think that's quite telling. Upholdjustice.org. They published the organ transplant physician list of the hospital. There were up to 31 liver and kidney transplant experts who can constitute several transplant teams. The list of responsible persons, their date of birth, the place of birth, their home address, their personal profile, and engaged in what. This is, first of all, for example, the director of urological surgery program, the chief physician, professor of the Chinese Medical Association. Okay, we have another. Let me bear with me for 1 second where I can find. We have at least 17 telephone investigations. One that you actually saw live on the documentary, the award-winning documentary "Hard to Believe," and you can download that at watch it actually, hardtobelievemovie.com. You actually heard one of the investigators talking to the doctor, a live conversation published in the report, involving at least 12 hospitals. Is 2,000 now, and the individuals investigated are all presidents or directors of top-level organ transplant hospitals in China. Many are responsible for state-level projects in the field of organ transplantation, as well as national and provincial-level technical experts. So these hospital presidents and directors are all heavyweight figures in key hospitals, which are suspected to have been participating in the live organ harvesting of Falun Gong. And this has been going on since at least 1995, when Dr. Enver Tohti, the surgeon that you saw as the bus driver that you mentioned, Phil, was forcefully forced by the Chinese Communist Party to commit a forced organ harvesting. His testimony, I bring him on the big shows. I was on Steve Bannon the other day, and Stu Peters and Alex Jones, and I bring him on these shows to share his testimony, because people can't believe that this is going on. Yeah, it's a kidney in the bathtub story. Yeah, this has all been going on before. Sure, and it's going on in America as well, but not on a state-sanctioned level like China. They've used the model of the CCP to export it to the West, just like the communist spectre from the Chinese Communist Party has been infiltrated into the United States and is now ruling our world as the communist spectre. But the University of Pittsburgh was just found recently harvesting live black baby body parts funded by the NIH and Fauci. The U.S. Supreme Court put into law the case Roe versus Wade, that allowed an influx of abortions, of particularly the black communities, as confirmed with the Margaret Sanger Planned Parenthood establishments, these abortion mills that have killed since 1973 at least 19 million black babies on purpose and intentionally. And blackgenocide.org can share into that. You also got ISIS that have committed these atrocities of forced organ harvesting. But none no other regime on the face of the earth has killed more life than 2 world wars combined, and where all the others have also learned from to do this kind of diabolical murder. It's spread far and wide, but the source of this, the breeding ground, just like the bioweapon agent that was created in the Wuhan lab, is in China, controlled by the CCP.
I think even here there was quite a big story in the 90s about organs going missing from dead children. Alder Hey in
Alder Hey
Liverpool.
Children's Hospital.
Yep.
Yeah, it is, and because there's so much money behind it. Going back to the CCP, I mean, they made Falun Gong illegal, essentially. They outlawed it at the turn of the 21st century. So do they have a legal basis for doing this to these people? Is that part of the rationale? And also the surgeons who are doing this, I mean, are they being threatened to do this? Are they being paid off to do this?
Huge amount of money, turning their doctors into murderers. Enver Tohti was forced on an execution ground. So he said very bluntly and very eloquently, the Communist Party are bringing, now the surgery is surgery. It's good to save life, and as I think the 3rd or the 4th clip with the Human Rights Council at the United Nations, Habib Sabib, he is an Iranian human rights lawyer as well. He was speaking about this. Surgery and transplantation surgery is a triumph. It's a medical triumph. It's very important to save life and to create organ donation programs. But forced donation, forced organ transplantation is evil. It's diabolical. Just ripping people out, their organs out while alive. So the reason why Falun Gong became so attractive is because of the medical benefits. I mean, the health benefits, I mean, they skyrocketed. And the Chinese Communist Party saw this and put 2 and 2 together. And to understand, guys, how organ harvesting has occurred in China, it's imperative and crucial to understand how far, that there's no limit to how far the Chinese Communist Party will go to wipe out something or someone. So when the persecution of the Falun Gong started in July 20th, 1999, it was forbidden in China. All the books, all the people who were practicing, all the practice sites where people were doing the exercises were banned. If you, just like Nazi Germany, just like what happened to the Jews in Nazi Germany, it was completely forbidden to be Jewish in Nazi Germany and in any occupied Nazi province or country. It was forbidden. They were marched off and they were gassed and they were killed. Same with the Falun Gong. The Chinese regime considered the Falun Gong movement the biggest threat to national security since the Tiananmen Square massacre 10 years previous. Right. So Jiang Zemin, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, when the persecution began, he was very hateful, that he couldn't control the hearts and the minds of tens of millions of people. So the key to carrying out this persecution has been to instill hatred in the Chinese Communist Party, poison their minds by non-stop 24/7 documentaries and propaganda on their state-run media, demonizing Falun Gong. The Chinese Communist Party even went so far as in 2001 made 5 people, even a 12-year-old girl and her mother, set themselves on fire in Tiananmen Square and put all the CCTV television news stations to broadcast this to the Chinese people and the world and saying, this is what Falun Gong does. Can't you see? It's a cult. It's an evil, sinister terrorist group. Don't believe in it. Let's re-educate them. Anyone who practices Falun Gong, make sure you rat them out, you point them out, and lead them, and we'll help you. We'll help them get back to normal society. Meanwhile, taking all of them, deceiving the general public, to death camps and cutting their organs out while alive and selling them as the most healthiest organs in the world to make a multi-billion-dollar business. Now, you tell me, folks, is this something crazy or is this something like out of a freaking horror film? But I've been living it for 20 years. I'm not a like I told you, I'm a Jewish international investigative journalist. I love Falun Gong. I've been practicing it for many years because it just gives me incredible peaceful mind, and a good heart, and I really enjoy the qualities. Very attractive to me. So yeah, I practice Falun Gong. I'm of the Jewish faith, and I'm an investigative journalist. And so what? I don't care. You bleed the same blood. I breathe the same air. You got a heart in your chest. I got a heart that beats in the chest. I got family members who've got livers and kidneys. I wouldn't like this done to them. So something inside me, gentlemen, and ladies and gentlemen, ignited in me that made me, okay, guys, I know I love these beautiful women and the lovely money and the investments, and you know what? My family were like, yeah, he's successful. He's been the president of this and the president of that and the leader of this. And they were like shocked. What the hell is going on with this guy? He's giving all this up. He's becoming like a semi-monk. He's becoming a social justice warrior, or a social. He was in not social justice, in social work, you can call it. They went crazy. I'm like, guys, I have to do what I have to do. Money will always be there. Success will always be there. But significance is something that really allows your heart to follow. Is courage, it's fortitude, it's temperance, it's tenacity, it's an arduous, lonely crusade, but it's full of valor and honor, not to leave a name, not to ask for a reward, but to do something before you leave this earth that is worthy of respect. And you know what? I did it. I've done it. I'm doing it. And that's why I'm grateful to you, brothers. Grateful to you, gentlemen. Grateful to you, Phil and Ben, for allowing me to share this with you and your audience, whoever is listening, at 3 o'clock in the freaking morning. I'm about to fall over because I'm pretty tired. No, I'm just joking. I'm pretty tired, but lately I haven't been getting any sleep. I mean, but I'm grateful to come on. Thank you. I've been talking a lot. Just cut me off if I'm rambling.
No, that's fine. It's admirable that you've found, it sounds to me that you were lacking meaning in your youth, and then you found, as Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, you found something greater than yourself that you want to pursue, and you're going to pursue it like a dog with a bone.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I've been always into, I was collecting Easter eggs and blanket squares for the homeless. I was in the Johannesburg City Mini City Council as the head school prefect, or whatever you want to call it, when I was young. So I've always been involved in charity, and I love giving, and I love sharing. I've rescued children on a child trafficking ring, and that was very profound. And I've, I blah, blah, blah. So, listen, that's got nothing to do with me. It's just, I think any human being that has the tenacity to volunteer, and I'm sure a lot of people do much more than me. I've just tried to do what I could do, and that's it, and live my life. And
what can we do as individuals, Mitchell? How can individuals who are listening, how can they help get involved?
Well, you want to first watch the next clip? Maybe you guys can,
if it'll help.
Let's go. That would be great. Yeah, discernment and learning about this.
Discernment, that's a word that keeps coming up on this podcast. What are we on? Clip 3?
Let's do clip 3.
Let's do it.
There are no human rights in China, and the most outrageous example of no human rights in China is killing a peaceful community of Falun Gong practitioners and Uyghurs, who are Muslims, and Tibetan Buddhists, and Christians, house Christians, for their organs, kidneys, livers, and so on, and then selling the organs to wealthy Chinese or foreigners, and the people are killed in the process.
The belief that I have, I share with David Kilgore, that organ harvesting is widespread in China, and it is restricted almost exclusively to Falun Gong practitioners. The Falun Gong are to the Chinese regime of today what the Jews were to the Nazis during the war. And we should all take note of this and look at China with new eyes.
There's no evidence that Falun Gong is a cult of any sort. There's no evidence of political action to try and bring down the Chinese government. There's no evidence of anything other than a deep desire to be left alone to practice their spiritual beliefs in peace and to not be locked up and murdered.
David and I have met Falun Gong practitioners in probably 50 countries.
or even more, maybe.
Okay. All walks of life, all ages, all backgrounds, all education. I've found them to be a wonderful group of people.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with any of that. I mean, Falun Gong, first of all, it's not even an organization because it's a set of exercises with a spiritual foundation. Yeah. Everything's on the internet. You don't pay anything. You don't sign up to anything. You can start whenever you want. You can stop with it whenever you want. You don't even have to tell anybody you're doing it. Their principles are very simple and ethical. And I mean, all of that is true.
Yeah, that's that seems to have highlighted for me what the problem is, in that it got too big for the Chinese Communist Party, and when you're in charge of a totalitarian state like that, it comes with a certain level of paranoia, and you know that if the revolution does come, it'll be you on the gallows if you were in charge of these horrible abuses. So it's like an evil self-preservation motivation as well.
Absolutely. And just to add to the evidence that this is going on more than ever before to a group of people, like you said, it's freedom. Under a communist state, you have no freedoms. That's why, luckily, the freedoms have been taken away. I mean, with the digital passports, the vaccine passports that are disguised as CCP, social credit scores to track your every moves. People are rising up. And the Americans need to really tap into the Second Amendment that the Founding Fathers to protect them from this communist specter that is now being infiltrated in more ways than ever to their freedoms and the world's people in France and London, the anti-lockdown protests in Canada. I mean, people need to rise up and they have to overthrow these evil, tyrannical, demonic forces. And I'm not talking about violence. I'm not advocating any violence here. I'm just saying that people have the right to stand and protect in defense of their freedoms and liberties being forced down, being taken away and forced upon them a vaccine, whether it's effective or not, or a jab, whether it's effective or not. That's not the issue. It's to be demonized because you know the facts about the CCP technology that has been used to harm a lot of innocent people, where a lot of people are dying, being harmed by these by these jabs. Okay, all right, let's call them jabs because that's good for YouTube.
I prefer magic juice.
You prefer?
I prefer magic juice.
Magic juice, yes, magic juice, because you don't want to get banned. Yes, see, I'm banned already, so it's just I just go for broke. You know what I mean? I just go raw, rugged, and raw. I don't care. But now, if I am broadcasting on these platforms, you got to be careful, gentlemen, what you say. You have to mind the T's and the Q's. You have to mind the English tongue.
That's a terrible accent.
Otherwise, the powers that be will.
That's better than your South African accent.
You have to be awful careful.
Yeah.
Oh God. But anyway, yes. The jabbity-doo, the jab-jab-jabbity-doo. Anyway, what I was saying about freedoms.
Yes. We take them for granted, don't we? And it's only when they're taken away that you miss them. And we're on a slippery slope here with health passes that you can see very easily rolling into the same sort of social credit system that's in operation by the CCP. And people just don't want to hear it. And they'll just go along with it for an easy life. And you have to decide where your line is. Where are you going to draw the line?
I just want to get back to normal, Falun Ban. I just want to get back to normal, so I'll take it. But do you know what's in it? No, I don't, and I don't care. I just want to take it so I can go back to normal, so I can go out and have a coffee, so I can go to a club and a bar, pick up a beautiful woman. I want to go around and just enjoy my life. Okay, so I'll just take it. I don't care what's in it. It's they supposedly say that it's helping you, and I'm doing my duty of protecting myself against those anti-vaxxers. Oh my God, those people are crazy. Let's just put them in gulags and internment camps and then get them all fucking vaxxed. Excuse my language, but Jesus, fellas, we're living. Welcome to the Matrix. Welcome to the Twilight Zone. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. If you know what I mean. Even the Oompa Loompas in the chocolate factories are fleeing for their lives. Flee for your life. I'm just saying, all jokes aside, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to what I'm doing here is I'm trying to put the fun back in dysfunctional. You know what I mean? Fun back in dysfunctional, because if you don't and you don't have a sense of humor, then you know what? This is going to plague your mind and worry your soul. And what's done is done, and we just have to deal with it. But again, back to the organ harvesting. Yeah, it's crazy what's happening, and people don't realize it until it happens to them. People don't want to care about what happens to other people until it happens to them. So that's the reason why a lot of mainstream media and people on talk shows and podcasts, they talk a great game of golf about human rights and blah, 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 but they don't want to have me on, no sir, because they see me on Alex Jones and they think I'm a conspiracy nut. Or they see me on other places and they think I'm crazy. I'm like, guys, it's a human spirit. Just have me on. I don't care whether you're left or right or green or silver. Yeah, I disagree with you, but this is the human body we're talking about. Imagine it was your family being ripped apart and killed and slaughtered and their organs being trafficked and sold for millions of dollars, and you never hear from them again. Wouldn't you want people to talk about it or news to speak of it? But they don't, because the CCP has infiltrated into the multinational corporations. There's been a $2 million database leak of spies.
I've seen that. Yeah,
the names
all over. Educational institutions, government agencies.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is part of the tactics that are used to prevent this stuff being disseminated more widely.
Exactly. And the legacy media being bribed 100,000, 200,000 a month. You know what I mean? Peddling communist propaganda and CCP garbage, lies. These people have sold their souls, and I'm quite interested to know, what did the CCP offer you to sell your soul? Because what profits the man that gains the whole world and loses his soul in the process? What do they get? What made you sell out, ladies or Jed? What made you sell out? What made you betray your conscience and the lives of others and put people in harm's way by aligning with a mass murdering regime that is harvesting alive their own citizens?
The problem is, Mitchell, corporations don't have souls or consciences, and that's why Hollywood, sports, they're all captured. We've seen it with Nike. We've seen it with that Star Wars movie where they shrunk down Finn, the black guy, because the Chinese Communist Party said, whoa, we can't have him that big on the poster. You'll have to shrink him for when you're selling your movie over here. It all comes back to the dollar.
Yep. A trade assassin once told me, Mitch, extinction, human extinction before a loss of profit, brother.
Yeah, I can believe it.
You know what I mean? Like, oh man, human extinction before a loss of profit.
Well, Mitchell,
the Falun Gong. Oh yeah, the Falun Gong. Well, we gotta make money. I couldn't really care less about the human rights in China. I gotta make money with the Communist Party. That's where my product is. That's where my factories are. If I talk about the Chinese Communist Party any bad way or mention the Falun Gong, I'll mention them in my board meetings to some of my shareholders. Yeah, we'll keep it quiet. But if I share anything else, my contract's gonna be cancelled, and I don't want to cancel my contract with $100 million. So yeah, as much as I like the Falun Gong, I know that's going on, I can't do anything about it. It's not my spiel. I'm going to lose my contract. I'm not in the business to help human rights. I'm in the business to make money. This is the mindset of most of these people, including some of the professors. When I was at university, they talked to me like, "Yeah, I'd love to help you, Mitch, but I can't be part. I can't sign off on your human rights group." Why not, Professor? Because I got a little bit of political colleagues who wouldn't like that, and I would get into trouble with them in my funding and the grants. You got to be careful. So at that point, every time I walked by her, she wouldn't even look at me. It was almost like a feeling of embarrassment or shame, and I should be ashamed.
Yeah. We're rocking up on time, and I'm conscious that you need to get to sleep, and we don't want to keep you any longer than we have to. But you mentioned about what people can do. What can people do?
Would you like to play the last clip? It's about a minute or 30, just to share that this is really, just to hit home that this is going on.
Yeah, stand by. Clip 4.
Mr. Vice President, the Durban Declaration affirms the urgent need to prevent, combat, and eliminate all forms of trafficking in persons, including organ trafficking. China Tribunal, a people's tribunal chaired by Sir Geoffrey Nice, considered all available evidence and concluded that forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience, including the religious and ethnic minorities of Falun Gong and Uyghurs, have been committed for years throughout China on a significant scale, and that it continues today. This involves hundreds of thousands of victims. Acting on independent legal advice, the tribunal concluded that commission of crimes against humanity against Falun Gong and Uyghurs had been proved beyond reasonable doubt, victim for victim, and death for death, cutting out the hearts and other organs from living, blameless, harmless, peaceable people constitutes one of the worst mass atrocities of this century. Organ transplantation to save life is a scientific and social triumph, but killing the donor is criminal. Government and international bodies must do their duty not only in regard to the possible charge of genocide, but also in regard to crimes against humanity, which the tribunal does not consider to be less heinous. It is the legal obligation of UN member states and the duty of this council to address this criminal conduct. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
You asked me, Phil, what we can do. I think people can learn the exercises of the Falun Gong. I think they'll love it. It's Falun Gong or Falun Dafa is the same practice. The feeling it gives me when I practice is a sense of peace, an unleashing of this stressed, congested energy that is anxiousness or built up tension and stress, and it just gets released. So people can take a look at the of more in depth of what Falun Gong is, this beautiful movement that has been so slaughtered and persecuted and demonized in China, at faluninfo.net, faluninfo.net, faluninfo.net. For the reports, people can go sign a petition, and I know people ask, well, what the hell is this petition going to sign? We need to sniper this guy. We need to go to war with China, but that would be a nuclear holocaust. This, as Shakespeare once said, my lords, the pen is all more mightier than the sword.
True, yeah.
You know, the pen, writing a check, writing a mortgage statement, writing a seed to your Bitcoin account, which you never give out, right, is like signing a petition. It's very important. It's very imperative because it gives you a sense of justice, of signing your name to a cause that is rightfully good to support, because as a human being, what is more better than supporting and helping other people and standing by other people, regardless if it's got to do with your tribe, your family, your friends. It's doing something good and noble, and that gives us a good feeling of significance and achieving something of altruism in this world. And that's very, very important. And that's a great virtuous deed, even if it's as simple as a pen, as it's mightier than the sword, a signature. And you can go to endtransplantabuse.org, watch the documentary Hard to Believe on YouTube, or you can watch the other documentaries, Hard to Believe movie.com by Soup Films. Those who are avid readers, who love to read and are really curious about the dealings behind the red wall of communist China, there's a great publication from the Epoch Times out of New York City, an explosive editorial series that is now becoming a heavyweight mainstream mainstream media platform that is like blowing the legacy media out of the water. That's why I hate the Epoch Times so much, actually, as well. It's tied to Falun Gong because the Epoch Times was created by Falun Gong petitioners initially to counter. Yes, right. To counter that. Yes, absolutely. The founding members was actually a Chinese newspaper, the largest Chinese newspaper in the Western world, exposing the Chinese Communist Party after this diabolical persecution occurred, where they fled because a lot of their friends were killed, their families, their colleagues were sent to labor camps, 18 years, 19 years, harvested alive, dead. I mean, unbelievable, the horrors. If you just read the testimonies, it's insane. So they created it, and then to counter the persecution, because the absolute deluge of propaganda. I mean, 1/4 of China's gross domestic profit by the CCP and its secret police and its military and its hospitalization declared war on Falun Gong. So to counter it that peacefully with news agencies and media outlets is courageous. Not going to war with anybody, not causing harm. That's the courageousness of the Falun Gong. So they created the Epoch Times, and now it's become the largest newspaper in America, in New York, and is growing ever since. So there's a really good documentary you can watch, you can listen to, or you can read, called "The Communist Spectre is Ruling Our World." The Communist Spectre is Ruling Our World. Great publication, and yeah, guys, don't worry about contacting me. If you, what I love to ask Phil and Ben is if you have anybody, any friends that do podcasts with you as well in the industry. I'd love to get on their shows. If you can email me or pass on my information. Yep.
Soon as we've finished, I'll just quickly go through that with you as soon as we're done here. But yeah. Also, all your links that you've mentioned, all those will be in the show notes. And just scroll down to the description, Eavesdroppers, and you can find all these links that Mitchell has suggested. And also, I would say, if you're in the UK, write to your MP. Why not? What have you got to lose? Send a quick email. I'll put a link in the show notes for the website where you can find your Member of Parliament and his email address. Fire him an email. What you know? What's it going to take you? 1 minute? Do it for your conscience, if anything else.
100%. 100%. And I think it's so imperative. It's
been amazing talking to you, Mitchell. It's been great. And
you too.
Any final words or thoughts or directions for people listening?
You know what? I'll quote from Gladiator, one of my favorite movies in the world, Maximus Decimus Meridius. When he was on the battlefield with all his men, with his foot soldiers, his cavalry. He said, 3 weeks from now, whether it'll be a month from now, 3 weeks from now, whatever, I'll be harvesting my crops. Imagine where you will be and will be. Hold the line. Stay with me. If you find yourself alone with green pastures with the sun on your face, don't be troubled because you are in Elysium and you're already dead. Meaning have no fear, right? Brothers, ladies and gentlemen, what we do in life echoes in eternity. What you are remembered for, not by how much money you have or how many good cars you've got or how many of your good looks. It's what you've done in this world. What you stood by in this world, and what side of destiny you chose to stand on and represent, Yeah. So I'm just grateful to be on your show, guys. It's been an honor. It's a historic privilege, and you should pat yourselves on the back because what you have allowed me to do, to share this with even one of your viewers, even one of your listeners, is a blessing. It's an honor, and I really take my hat off to you, Phil and Ben. And you know what they say about the quiet ones. They're the deadly ones. You watch out for the quiet ones.
Absolutely.
They're the true leaders. They're the ones that you need by your side for counsel because they're the ones that get you through the times of do or die situations. So God bless you, Ben. Thank you for listening, man. I really respect you and you, Phil. And I'm grateful that I didn't cancel today because I was really tired, but I'm glad I got on. But thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And
it's been the best to you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yep.
Stay on the line for us 1 minute while we play ourselves out. Don't forget to check out the links in the description. All the information is there. And we'll catch you lot on the flip side for part 2.
Cheers, Mitchell.
See you in a minute, Mitchell.